We're looking at Steelbooks today, a Steelbook shelf in this latest episode of Desert Island Discs. Yeah, let's get into it, shall we? Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to this latest episode of Desert Island Discs, Desert Island Movies, whatever you want to call it, where we're going to take a look at one of my shelves and I'm going to whittle it down and pick that one film that I would pick overall of all those movies on that shelf. And this is just a way of looking at the collection, looking at what I've got, going through it shelf by shelf and adding a little bit of fun to the mix. But while I'm doing this, I want you to take a look through as well and tell me what film you would pick, and put that down in the comments below. Let me know what film you would pick overall out of all of these movies. And while you're there, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, then do so. Why not? What do you have to lose? Nothing. That's the answer. So today we're going to break away from the standard shelves and we're going to head down to the floor behind me to a Steelbook shelf, and we're going to go through the Steelbooks down there. Now the Steelbook shelves generally are somewhat more interesting, shall we say, than the standard shelves. Not that they don't hold any interest, of course they do, but by what I mean is that with the Steelbooks you generally have a lot of higher quality films, shall we say, or films that I think a lot more of than what I do just standard Amaray Blu-rays. So it makes it a bit more difficult for me to pick a film, and I have to let some really good films go, if that makes sense. Luckily this is just for fun, because I don't have to let anything go in reality. So I'm going to have to go and sit on the floor for this one, so I'm going to have to take the camera down with me. Otherwise I want to keep having to bend up, bend down, and that's no good for anyone. So let's get down there. Okay, so I'm sat comfortably or uncomfortably on the floor. It's like being back at school when you're sat on the floor with your legs crossed in assembly. That's how I'm sat. Doesn't bring back good memories. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through the shelf down here. You can't, let me tilt the camera. We're going to go through this shelf down here and take a look. There are a couple of bits that I'm going to have to take away from the choices because it's TV stuff, but we're going to take a look. Let's take a look at what's on this shelf. So first up I have 100 movies scratch off bucket list film poster, which I really should do at some point. My son bought me this for, I don't know, it might have been Christmas one year or my birthday or something. I should really get it up and make a start on that. Then down here we also have TV series, and these will come out of the equation. We have the complete Baywatch. Yes, all the way through from the original Baywatches into Baywatch Hawaii and even Baywatch Nights. All DVD. I will do TV because I'm going to go through every shelf. So I will pick a TV series over another TV series and that sort of thing eventually. So let's get into what we have down here and take a look. Now there are some thicker releases at the very end. So this may not take as long as normal. So let's go through it, shall we? So what do we have in here? Okay, so we have a bootleg here of The Fabelmans. The Fabelmans. I say a bootleg because this was sent to me by someone. It didn't cost me anything. It was just sent free for me to watch. And I'll be honest, I never got around to watching it. I still haven't watched The Fabelmans. It's about the life of Steven Spielberg, apparently. Directed by Steven Spielberg. I should really put that to one side and give it... Is it any good? Have you seen The Fabelmans? What did you think of it? And then here I have a DVD of a film called Inanimate. It cost me £1.50 in CEX. Stars Lance Henriksen, I believe, and it's set on the ice, so it looked intriguing. I picked it up, and I picked this up when I was up in, where was I? It's when I went to meet Matt and Chris at the same time, up Chris's neck of the woods. I can't remember where that was. But anyway, let's get on with it, shall we? Let's have a look what we have. See what we have floating around flat on top. Okay, so we can throw that one away to start with, but I'll keep the disc, and it is Time Bandits. That was a printed cover. I photocopied that and printed it. Well, not photocopied it, I printed it off. But I can throw that away because the disc inside is one that was free with the Daily Mail back in the day. And I do have the film on 4K, so I don't really need that disc, but I'm not going to throw the disc away. So here we have, okay, first up, I bought this for £6. And this isn't my only steelbook for this film for some obscure reason. I don't know why. And that is G.I. Joe 2, The Rise of Cobra. I know I have another steelbook for this because it came out, I pulled it out on one of the last episodes, steelbook episodes. I can't, for the life of me, I can't see it, and I wanted to see whether it was a different, completely different steelbook, or whether it was the same. Can't be the same. I want to bought two of the same steelbook. But anyway, G.I. Joe, Rise of Cobra, Retaliation. No, not Rise of Cobra. Retaliation. It's the sequel. What am I talking? It's the sequel, Retaliation. The Rock, Bruce Willis, killed off Channing Tatum. I'll have to have a look for that other one. So let's get into what's actually down here properly, shall we? Okay, so first up, here we have what's this called? What's it? I forget the name of it now. Tales from the Crypt. The Tales from the Crypt movie. This is a German steelbook release, as you can see. Yeah. Remember, as I'm doing this, pick your favourite. So, nice steelbook for Tales from the Crypt. And then we move into the territory of Tomb Raider, Lara Croft. The first film, the Angelina Jolie starring movie. Which also had James Bond in it. You know, Daniel Craig. Then we have the Gerard Butler sequel, Cradle of Life, Tomb Raider. I like these steelbooks. I like the art on them. I do. They're quite nice. I have 4K versions of these as well as a media book somewhere, or a digibook, whatever you want to call it. And then we have Tomb Raider, the Alicia Vikander, whatever her name was. What's her name? Alicia Vikander. The Alicia Vikander Tomb Raider film, which, again, I didn't mind. It's a shame it didn't get a sequel. It was okay. Next up, we have a classic now. Classic movie. Young Guns. German steelbook release. Great film. Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Charlie Sheen, Dermot Mulroney, Casey Siamasco. Yeah. And a nicely matching Young Guns 2, Blaze of Glory, steelbook release as well. Again, Germany. Great steelbooks. Okay. Next up, we have here, we have The Goonies. Classic film. Classic film from the 1980s. And I know full well that, well, Matt over at Matt V's Movies watched this, but watched it more recently and he couldn't get into it. One of those films, I guess, that you had to grow up on. But, you know, great film. I love that. Film that I think is highly overrated next. And that is Beetlejuice. Yeah, with Michael Keaton. I think that this film isn't as good as what people make out, honestly. I seriously, I don't see what the appeal is. I bought that as a blind buy. I'd never watched it when I was younger. I didn't watch it. I'd seen bits of it, and even then it didn't appeal. But then I thought, let's give it a try. Let's see what all the fuss is about. I like Michael Keaton a lot. He's great. Sat down, watched it all the way through, and I was like, I don't get it. It's not that good. I know they're doing a sequel. Do I care? Not really at all. Next up, we have, from the Book of Saw, we have Spiral with Chris Rock. Yeah, odd casting choice, really. Sam Jackson is in this as well. Yeah, it was okay. It was okay. I didn't not like it. Next up, Steelbook for Snake Eyes. So that G.I. Joe one can sit with that. Yeah, Snake Eyes. Henry Golding. Henry Golding's quite a good actor. He's not bad. This was a film that came out during COVID, as I recall. G.I. Joe Origins. It was a little bit lackluster. I didn't mind it on the first watch. Struggled when I tried to revisit it. A classic film there. Bruce Willis, Sixth Sense. And I'm pretty sure some people will probably likely pick this. Very possibly. We'll see what happens. Great film. Great twist ending. This was when M. Night Shyamalan made decent movies. One trick pony though, isn't he, really? And then we have Rambo Last Blood. Now this is the foreign version because it does include the opening scene that we had omitted or edited out of the British version of the film. So I got it from I think this is a French version, I'll be honest. Oh, I love this film, but it's so bad. I love to hate it, but I just look at it and I think, I like this film, and it's so embarrassing, but I do like it, and it is Spawn. A big lover of the comic books of Spawn. I collect the figures. Todd McFarlane's Image comic, which debuted in 1992, when Todd McFarlane and other creators left Marvel to create their own comic company. Spawn was the very second comic that they released after Youngblood, being Rob Liefeld's Youngblood, which was the first. Spawn's still going strong today with multiple comics. You have Scorched, which is like a Spawn team-up book. You've got Gunslinger Spawn, which is like a Western version. You've got King Spawn, which is more medieval. And you still have the standard Spawn comic going as well. Yeah, I like... This is a bad film. It's a bad film, don't get me wrong. But this film is so ripe for a remake, a big budget remake. And I don't know, but there's elements of this film that I hate when I watch it, but there's elements that I love as well. I love the suit. I love the look of the suit. And it's just one of those films that I know's bad, but I could sit down and watch it time and again. I revisit it quite often. Then we have Steelbook for Brightburn. It's German. Still sealed, because I do have a Blu-ray copy of it as well, a standard Amaray version copy. So yeah, Brightburn. Superman, isn't it? It's the Superman story, but sort of like a what-if version of it, in a sense. But it doesn't live up to its potential. It doesn't give you what it could have given you. Yeah, it falters in a sense. Next up, we have the Green Hornet, and this is a steelbook that I really like. I like that. It's like the grille of the car with the Hornet, and it's all embossed. It's a really nice looking steelbook. I remember watching the film and I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was bad, but I haven't seen it for a long time. Next up, we have Stallone's Judge Dredd. Now, this is a film that I love to hate. I love the fact that in this steelbook, I love it, you have actually got an image in there, in there where the clone has popped up out of one of the test tube things, and this scene isn't even in the film. It's an edited scene. It's a part of the film that was edited out. I just love that they use that. It's you know what I mean? It makes no sense. Everything about the world of Judge Dredd is correct in this film, but the character of Judge Dredd isn't. And this is a film that the more I watch, I just tear it to bits. But I used to love it. I used to love it. But now I just see flaws in every scene. You know, there's I can't not watch this film. When I watch this film, the uniforms, the outfit, I love the outfits, but they're so reflective that all I'm doing the entire time is looking in the reflection of the helmet or the visor, and I can see in the background that it's daytime, and I can see where the sets end and all this sort of a thing, and you know, I don't know why they filmed any of this during daytime. It must have been a nightmare to film, because at night time you must have had the reflection of the lights hitting the outfits and the uniforms, and during the day you've got the reflection of the daylight, and you can see where the buildings end. And this is meant to be a city that goes on up and up and up and up, and you can see the top of the buildings, the top of the sets. It's one of those films that I love to hate. It got the world right, it just got the character of Judge Dredd completely wrong. But there's so many elements of that film that I'm critical of. Next up, we have a lovely, again, a German steelbook for the movie Darkman, with a very horror-esque kind of cover, almost akin to Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of thing with these here. Very horrific kind of a steelbook. A really nice steelbook of a film that was directed by Sam Raimi, a superhero film in a sense, his own superhero film, an original superhero film, not based on a comic book. There has been comic books of Darkman. Marvel done a short series of it, and then it was picked up by Dynamite Comics, done some as well, and they have actually teamed this character up with Bruce Campbell's Ash from Army of Darkness. You've had crossovers, and ironically Bruce Campbell is in this. He becomes Darkman at the end. Liam Neeson's face, he uses a mask, and it's Bruce Campbell in the street. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and it's a good film. It's a really good film. I mean, some of the effects are now very ropey and that sort of thing, but it's got that Sam Raimi charm to it. It's got that distinct Sam Raimi fingerprint all over it, where you watch it and you're looking at it and you're thinking, this is a Sam Raimi film. If you knew Sam Raimi and you didn't know it was directed by Sam Raimi, and you're familiar with his films, you'd be watching this film and you'd go, this is Sam Raimi. Next up, we have, and I've got multiple steelbooks for this. This is actually Dredd, the remake. Well, yeah, the remake version. The version that came about in, when was it, 2008 or something like that? I can't remember. 2010. It was some time ago now. Starring Carl Urban and Lena Headey. And yeah, this was really good. This was a really good film, and it's a shame no one went to see it. The thing was, at the time, everyone that this came out, everyone was crying for R-rated superhero movies. We want an adult superhero movie. They're all made for kids, blah blah blah. And the minute you're given one, no one goes to the cinema to see it. It was badly advertised. The advertising was dreadful for this movie. It really was. The outfit, when you first saw the photos and this big helmet, it just looked odd. It looked off. It didn't look good at all. But surprisingly, when you actually saw the film, this film worked, and Carl Urban just embodied this character. He didn't take the mask off like Sly Stallone did. He stayed hidden. He didn't care about that. And yeah, it just tells a small-scale story kind of thing within the world of Judge Dredd. And that's the thing about Judge Dredd, that you could make so many films just of a different ilk, a different style of film set within this universe, with Judge Dredd being a part of it. That's what the universe lends itself to. Make a great TV series as well. If you leaned into that, but unfortunately, it just didn't. And here's another Steelbook for Dread, and this is the Best Buy exclusive one. And this is a beauty of a Steelbook. I won't get it out. I will get it out, yeah, because it has its own protective slip. It's a beauty of a Steelbook. Best Buy exclusives are really nice. I mean, look at that. That's just stunning. Even the disc art within is stunning. Unfortunately, I don't think the 4K transfer is the best on this film, I'll be honest. But yeah, so there we go. Then we have a Steelbook for the movie Willow. Got it from CEX. I can't get through this film. I cannot get through it. I don't think it's that good. I'll be honest. I'll be honest with you. It ain't a great film, in my opinion. I didn't grow up on it, so therefore there's why. There's why. Very Lord of the Rings. It's funny. I watched that, and then it must have been George Lucas must really have been inspired by Lord of the Rings for that film. That's all I can say. I'm talking about the books, because it's very Lord of the Ring-esque kind of elements to it. Then we have Goldfinger, James Bond, Sean Connery, still sealed. I got this very cheap. And why not? It's a nice looking Steelbook. Sean Connery's not my favourite James Bond. I didn't grow up with Sean Connery. I think it's a case of more of who you grew up with for a lot of people. Not necessarily for me, because that would mean that I would be drawn towards Roger Moore as a James Bond, because he would have been my era of growing up. However, my favourite James Bond is actually Timothy Dalton. I think he's the best. And Licence to Kill is my favourite Bond film, probably because it's not really... It steps away from that, what makes a Bond film a Bond film. It does something a little bit different, and that's probably why. And then we have... I just picked this up because it was £6 and it was a nice Steelbook. Still got stickers on it. And that was Revenge of the Sith. Arguably the best of the prequel trilogy films. I didn't get all Steelbooks for the Star Wars films. I didn't feel the requirement to. But this one was going cheap. I thought, you know, it's a nice Steelbook. General Grievous on it. I quite like that, so I picked that up. It's just sat down there, odd. I've got a couple of other Star Wars Steelbooks. Yeah. Then we have a great film here. Great film in The Untouchables. Kevin Costner, Robert De Niro, Andy Garcia, and Sean Connery giving a fantastic performance within. This is an amazingly incredible film, and do you know what? It has some lovely, lovely embossing, debossing on it with the bullet holes. Really nice Steelbook. And it's a fantastic film. Great soundtrack by Ennio Morricone, or whatever his name is. I'm butchering his name. Ennio Morricone. Ennio Morricone. Great soundtrack by him. He also done this. He's done a lot of soundtracks, but his Untouchables one is good. And I also like Mission to Mars. Soundtrack that he done, the score that he done for that. Next up, we have, well, obviously it's another Steelbook, and I picked this up in CEX as well because I like the Steelbook, and it was for Luc Besson's Lockout, starring Guy Pearce. This is the film that caused a lot of controversy in that it is a direct rip-off, and it got sued as such. For Escape to New York. Seriously, if you watch this film, it is... I don't know how they had the gall to make this. Hats off to them for doing what they done, in that they completely ripped off Escape from New York. You know, you can't even argue. You can't even argue that it's not a rip-off of it. So a lawsuit preceded it. Yeah, and they lost. Then we have Arnie, in Red Sonja, that Conan era, where Arnie's playing Conan, but not. He could pretend that he's playing Conan. This here came with it comes with a poster. I forgot about that. Poster inside that steelbook. Lovely steelbook. It's an okay film. I've done this as a watch party with Gareth over at Video Tasties once. We watched this film and discussed it. Yeah, there's Red Sonja. It's a product of its time. It's silly, it's fun. Bridget Nielsen as Red Sonja. What can I say? Next up we have, and this is still sealed. And this is the Blu-ray box set of Spider-Man's. Sam Raimi trilogy and the Mark Webb duology. Yeah, and, you know, all of varying efforts. The first Sam Raimi one is okay. It was good in its day. Watching it more recently, it's good, but there's questionable elements about it. Spider-Man 2, clearly the best. Spider-Man 3, decent elements, but a lot of mistakes made. Andrew Garfield's first is a decent enough film. Andrew Garfield's second film I cannot sit through. I cannot get to the end of it because ultimately it goes nowhere. It gives you nothing because we didn't get a third. There's story elements within The Amazing Spider-Man. There's stuff about his father and his mother and that, which is just stupid and not required. Yeah, there's some decent films in there. I do stand by my comment that the animated Into the Spider-Verse movies are far better than the animated Spider-Man movies. Spider-Man 2 is the best of that bunch, and it's an amazing movie. It really is. It's a great film, that one. But then we have Avengers Endgame in this lovely big box. So I shan't get it out and all the bits, but it does light up, as you can see. It's a light up box. Yeah, Avengers Endgame. I remember seeing it at the cinema. I think it's far better than Avengers Infinity War. Simply because there's a lot more story element to this one, whereas Infinity War is action from beginning to end, and I get that people like that, and it's like, but you know, at times I need a bit more than just action. As good as Infinity War is, which it is, you know, Avengers Endgame slowed it down a little bit for elements, gave us a bit of story, a bit more emotion. The finality to Captain America was great. I loved it because Captain America is my favourite character within the MCU, and his story arc all the way through, it is what I really enjoy. Yeah, it was a good, strong end to the MCU, and after that everything went downhill. Yeah, there we go. Then we have a similar release for the second Spider-Man film, which again, it all lights up. Look at that, lovely. I'm not sure if this is my favourite of the Spider-Man trilogy. I've tired of Tom Holland, though. That's the issue I've got. I've tired of Tom Holland. I think he's quite a boring, dull actor. To be honest, I don't think he's got much range. I think he just plays Peter Parker as he is in everything he does. I mean, I know that everyone loves the third one, where the Spider-Men come together, but I don't know. I put it on and I have to turn it off. I turn it off. I cannot get through the film. I don't think it is as good as what people make out. I think people are blinded by the fact that you've got Toby, Andrew and him together, which is great. It had great callbacks, fan favourite moments in that film, obviously, and I can see that and I understand that. It's great getting these Spider-Men together, doing a multiversal Spider-Man film. But overall, I don't think the film is as good as what people claim. I really don't. I've got major issues with it. And so much so that I struggle on a rewatch now. And then we have same release for Captain Marvel. And the film looks great. I mean, it looks really nice. However, it is very much lacking something that Marvel had, that a lot of the other Marvel films had at that era. This film lacks it. So again, it's another one that, although it's got some nice elements, it's not the greatest Marvel film at all. And then to finish up down here on the shelf, and these are not included because they fall under TV, we have the big Blu-ray Steelbook or Steel Tin for Band of Brothers, and likewise for the Pacific. Two great series. Band of Brothers is far better than the Pacific, I will say that. Although they're both very good. There's meant to be a new version, a new film or new TV series coming set within this world. Set within, you know what I mean? Not world, but like a third part to that, which is the airborne side of things. So that's it. That's the films on this shelf. So have you made your pick? And I'll be honest, this is a difficult shelf to go with. It's a very difficult shelf to go with. So I'm going to have to give this a little bit of thought. But let me know in the comments down below what film you've picked, what film you think I'll pick. And momentarily for you, point of a second, I'll be back with my choice. So I'm back, I'm done. Choices have been made. So as a runner-up, I have to go with The Untouchables, which, like I said, I love this film. I think it's great. Every time I watch it, I think I love it that much more. However, that's not my pick. My pick, I think it's going to be a controversial one. And even myself, I think with this pick, I think that with some of the stuff on that shelf, it could easily change at some point. If I was filming this several weeks down the line or several months ago, I don't know. You know, if I film it in a year's time, it might change. But the movie that I'm going to pick as the one that I would take with me is Endgame. Avengers Endgame. Because for me, you know, I'm a big comic book fan. If you watch the channel, you know that. You would know that I've read comic books since I was about 10 years old. I've collected comic books. There was a time when I was a comic book fan, and if you ever read comics back then and you knew of the magazine Wizard, where they had fan casting pages in it and all this sort of nonsense, it was a pipe dream. This kind of movie would never happen. It would be too expensive, the effects weren't there, it just couldn't be done. So when Marvel actually started doing it in 2008, when special effects had reached this level to give us this sort of a movie, comic book fans were in delirium. They were in this dream world. They were in, like, you know, this is happening. This is finally happening. Something that we didn't ever think could happen is happening. And for me, this represents the best. I'm not saying it's the best. It's not my favourite film within the MCU. No, it's not. But it represents the heights of what this film series achieved. It really did, before, you know, going out with a bang and then dropping in quality. The MCU has clearly dropped in quality after this, and I am the first to say that there is such a thing as fatigue, and the MCU, DC has shown it. Audiences have grown bored of this stuff. They have. And me as well. I'm very critical of what we get now. Even as a comic book fan, you think I'd be singing their praises or something. I'm not. I can look at it through, you know, I don't look at it through rose-tinted glasses. You know, there's an issue. Marvel have an issue. DC have an even bigger issue. The bubble has burst, or it's deflating within this genre of film, and something has got to come up and step and take up that place as the big next thing. But Avengers Endgame, you know, this was when everyone was anticipating the next Marvel movie, and this is one of the experiences where I went to the cinema, and when I watched it, the audience was invested, and you don't really get that now. In a cinema, you get people on their phones, you get people talking, you get people. But when I went to see this, it was on opening day, and everyone was invested. They were there because they wanted to be there. They were there for this film. And like I said earlier, for me, this is better than Infinity War because it has more of a story element to it. It has more character elements. It's not just action from beginning to end, and it has more of an emotional punch. Yes, I know Infinity War had an emotional punch when it came out, when the characters just turned to dust, but that was resolved. That was resolved in this film, and they came back. So that impact is lessened, obviously, by the fact, and we knew they were coming back anyway. But it was an emotional moment. But when you get to see this film and see them come back through the portal holes, it's a proper, you know, the audience went wild. The audience went wild. And like I said, for me, Captain America for me is the heart and soul of the MCU. He's my favourite character within the MCU. And I would say that he's a favourite character of mine outside of the comics as well. Now, it's very easy to dismiss the character of Captain America, you know, because I'm an English person and I'm watching a film or reading a comic about a man who's essentially wearing the American flag. You know, how much more hokey can you get than that? But the character, when you've got the right writer on board, the character of Captain America. And Captain America became one of my favourite Marvel characters when Ed Brubaker was writing the comic. Now, Ed Brubaker created the character of the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes. He didn't create Bucky Barnes. Bucky Barnes had been a mainstay of Captain America's history for forever. But no one had ever been able to bring Bucky Barnes back. He's much like Uncle Ben, one of these characters that are entwined in the origin of a character, and you can't really interestingly bring the person back or in a believable way. Yeah, Ed Brubaker managed to do it and created the character of the Winter Soldier. And I was there when Ed Brubaker was writing the comics of Captain America, and for me, he elevated this character. You know, and what I like about Captain America is his old world sensibilities, his morals, his moral compass that he's brought from a world that now doesn't exist into a world today where morality is somewhat skewed, and Captain America is still pointed, or Steve Rogers is still pointed a way that, you know, people like myself wish society still was. I like the way he's got no problem standing up against authority. He's got no problem standing up against the regime because he believes in what that regime is doing is wrong. Now, on face value, he's a character that you'd probably think just is a yes man, no man, or a yes sir. Do you know what I mean? I'll do whatever I'm told to do, but he's not. He'll do what his moral compass points him in the direction of doing, and that's the right thing to do, even in a bad situation. And for that, I love this character, and the man out of time aspect of the character as well is something that just gravitates towards me. And so you've got that element to this film, and the ending where he goes back and gets his life finally with Peggy Carter is fantastic for me, and to see that character's arc just rounded off is amazing. And yeah, I love the film. I love the film. Yeah, I do, honestly. I know that other people will probably pick something like Spider-Man 2, which is a great film, don't get me wrong. There's probably some others down there that go for picking as well. But for me, Avengers Endgame, I just love because of that love of the comic book genre, and as a comic book reader, This film gave me it all, and I watched it twice in one day. You know, the day I watched it, first watched it, I saw it twice, and I loved it. I really do. So there's my pick. So thank you for watching. Like I said, I will be interested in the comments to hear what film you would have picked out of that lot down there. And we can have a little discussion about those. So be sure to drop a comment. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, because in 2 weeks' time I will be back with another episode of Desert Island Discs, and I'll continue with my standard shelving, and we'll see what we've got on there. See you then.